Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Billy, thanks for joining me on the Rad Dads Show. We sort of had we've taken a little break this summer, so I don't think we put out an episode since May. So we're swinging for the fences, back with Billy Dixon. So I'm going to start by asking you, who are you?
That's a tough question, I guess, right? My name is Billy Dixon. I play in a band from Calgary called Chixdiggit on Fat Records, who's playing at the upcoming Punk and Drublic Festival in Edmonton this Saturday, September 3rd. I also play in a Calgary band called the Ativans, and I am a father of three, one aged 20, one aged 7, and one aged 3. So they're gapped out. Same mom and everything. We just kind of figured it out along the way, I guess. And also just kind of a regular Monday to Friday guy as well.
Okay. So are you able to talk about what's your day job?
My day job? Oh, this is where it gets really cool. So
Okay.
I have a management job in the public service.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, when I said really cool, I was just kind of kidding. But,
yeah. So
a very, very normal job.
okay. Office job. So you're kind of doing the Clark Kent thing.
I hope not. I think I'm the same person, at 2 in the afternoon as I am at 10 at night.
Okay.
But maybe not as much as I think.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So 3 kids and pretty decent spread, like you said.
Yeah.
So 20 all the way down to 3.
Yeah.
Girls, boys.
20-year-old is a girl. The 7-year-old is a boy, and the 3-year-old's a girl.
Okay. So 20 years ago,
Yeah.
become a dad. So tell me about that. Did you have any fears about becoming a dad?
Well, I was quite young, so I think that there was a lot of fear of the unknown for sure. Our first was not planned.
Okay.
I was 21 and mom was 19, and so we went through with having our daughter Adeline, and I mean it's been obviously an amazing experience. But yeah, there was a lot of learning along the way being that young, because I mean at 21, I mean you're still a kid.
Yeah.
And hadn't even gone to school yet, or I hadn't gone to sort of any type of college yet at that point. So yeah, but you're also resilient at that age too, and when life comes at you, you just sort of figure it out.
Yeah. So I mean, you said it, you're still a kid at that time, and you probably didn't have many or any friends who were sort of going through that at that time.
It's funny. One of my closest friends, almost at the exact same time, also had a girl. So
Okay.
that was kind of unique. I mean, we came from at that time I was living in a small town, Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories.
Okay.
Yeah, so just sort of like having kids young wasn't as maybe rare as it was in the big city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from
there was-
Medicine Hat, so I
so you
I feel
get it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do, right? So
Yeah, it's just sort of like I mean, I don't want to totally stereotype, but there is a bit of a natural or common trajectory for people, and especially in smaller places. And a lot of people who don't want to go that way, they'll move away, right?
Yeah, and well, I don't know if we were going that way, but I think,
Just happened.
it just happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, you're 21 years old and you have to figure out swaddling a baby and changing diapers, and then you talked about school. So did you went to school sort of after becoming a parent?
Yeah, I took a year of business college.
Okay.
When Adeline was a baby, and it was actually, I think people have asked me, was that hard? No, it was incredibly easy because, school is just 6.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And mom was on, maternity leave from her job at the time. So it was kind of great. We were just around all the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
as opposed to
much simpler time.
Yeah, as opposed to work, and that's maybe a little bit more of a commitment during the day.
Yeah.
Not something that you can necessarily, I guess it's a little bit different now. A lot of people working from home now, but yeah, if you're away from the family, it's tough, right? Especially in that beginning stage as you're kind of both trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so 13 years later, another one comes along.
You know how it goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's great. So that must be sort of neat to see. Like you've got you said it's Adeline, right? So is Adeline, you know, when your son comes along, is Adeline sort of taking on a bit of like, you know, I mean, sisterly, but like a motherly type of role? I see that. And so I've got 2 daughters, and I already see that in my 6-year-old, with the
Yeah,
littler one.
for sure. It's a unique relationship, right? Because, you know, like you said, so I think she was actually 12 when Billy Jr. was born.
Okay.
And so I think she had, you know, there's some comedy with that too, right? Because there was times where she maybe took him to the mall when he was like a toddler, and you know, she would come home and say that maybe some people made some comments about her being a teen mom even, you know. And so she would get kind of embarrassed by that sometimes, and also at that age where maybe you're a little embarrassed of family to begin with.
Right.
So but you know, it's a great dynamic, right? So yeah, there is kind of like a third quasi parent maybe patrolling, you know, the home at times, right? And so she spends a lot of time with the kids, and they get along with her well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's neat to see.
Yeah,
And now she's 20. She's still sort of at home with you guys, or?
still at home. Yeah,
Yep.
she's uh just finishing school, I guess, and
Cool.
then, you know, gonna get figuring out her life, but yeah, still at home. And yeah.
That's exciting. And then a few years later, another one comes along. So you've got a daughter who's 3, you said, right?
Yeah, Betty,
Yeah.
or Elizabeth, I guess, but yeah, we call her Betty. And yeah, she's kind of the spark plug in the family. Yeah, it's kind of, you know, I guess that's what you get for having one at 38, right? The one that's maybe got the most concentrated personality as a toddler at that age.
Yeah, it takes the most energy, and they're kind
Yeah,
of fighting for attention too. Like, so
yeah,
I've got a 3-year-old daughter as well, and it's exactly the same situation in our house.
yeah,
Yeah, she is just a wild woman. Honestly, it's crazy.
yeah.
But you know, you just sort of figure it out, and you just go with the flow, and it's kind of nice. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like once you hit 3, like you're maybe getting to that, like they're potty trained, they can kind of do stuff on their own. um you're not as worried about like if they're sitting in the other room playing for, you know, half an hour by themselves. It's kind of nice, right? You could kind of breathe that sigh of relief a little bit.
For sure, but she just doesn't hesitate to let us know how she's feeling, you know,
Yep.
at any time, really. So
Nice.
yeah,
Well,
in
that's great.
good ways and other good ways, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the Rad Dad Show. Do you consider yourself a rad dad?
Oh, I don't like, I guess, what would the definition of that be?
Well, that's a good question. I should ask you that. What do you think? Like, what do you think is a rad dad?
You know, I think probably anybody that's doing their best. And I think, you know, like a lot of things in life, but maybe most importantly, parenting, and then, you know, of course, family relationships. Um, you know, just always trying to do your best, and maybe knowing that you'll never do the best, or maybe even your best, right? Because perfection is
Mm-hmm.
kind of sort of a exercise in futility to try and obtain. So if you're always just trying to get better and always trying to, you know, stay on top of things, and, you know, really be aware of, you know, how important, you know, your role as a father or a parent or a mother in your children's lives are, you know, maybe that's what a rad dad is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I think from my perspective, like that's why we do the show. That's why we, you know, started Rad Dads and do what we do. Is really just to encourage dads to like give yourself a pat on the back, say I'm doing my best here. You know, celebrate those wins. I think it's a good point you make about not being perfect. It's really hard, right? Like, I don't know, I struggle with that a little bit. Like I was saying to somebody just yesterday, like I have a little bit of an imposter syndrome as like a parent. Like, you know, I'm pretty hard on myself. I don't know. Do you experience some of that too? Like, how do you deal with those feelings of like, oh, I screwed that up, or I should have done that better? And
Yeah, well, I think like in the older you get to, right, you maybe realize that other sort of parental figures or adults from your youth, you go, oh yeah, maybe they weren't perfect either. Just like they were just like me.
yeah.
And so I think, you know, we're all kind of going through this existence together, right? And everybody's kind of fighting their own battles. But I think, you know, the best gauge of how you're doing as you.
Yeah.
And you're going to know if there's things that you maybe need to sort of get your shit together a little bit on. And you're going to know where you're doing good. And I think, having obviously a good circle of influence is important too. But yeah, I think we all go through those feelings, but you just, I don't know, checking in on yourself or doing whatever you can, I guess, to keep the machine rolling.
Well, you talked about that circle of influence. Like, who are those people to you? Like, who are those people you look to sort of like validate how you're feeling, or I don't know, chat with or get advice from? Like, do you have specific sort of people in your life that serve that purpose?
Yeah, I got some, I'm lucky to have some close friends, right? And I've got a wife that I've got a really good relationship with. So yeah, I mean, in Chixdiggit, all of us are really close friends and spend a lot of time together outside of the band too. And even with our wives and our children, like we go on vacations together even. So
Yeah.
I've got really close sort of even outside the band friends there. And then I've got some other friends sort of in my periphery that, I spend time with and, can have really good chats with, and be open with.
Yeah, I think that's kind of important. Like, especially as a dad, I think, some of us are maybe better at it, or have, or maybe not better at it, maybe have the privilege of having some good role models and good, I guess, resources around us, but not everybody sort of has it. And I think it is important to, to reach out. And sometimes it's hard for guys to do that, right? To say like, oh, geez, I feel like I really screwed that up, or, I'm really stressed out. Like, is this normal? So yeah, no, that's good. And so you've got the band as a resource. So a few of you guys are dads, right? In Chixdiggit?
Yeah, three of us, and
Yeah.
all kind of have the young ones, at least of similar age.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard you talk about before, or yeah, I don't know, maybe it was KJ or something, about like bringing the kids on tour occasionally. Have you guys done that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this festival in Saskatchewan called Gateway, and it's in
Yeah.
Bendel. It's sort of like in the middle of nowhere, and it's sort of like a sampling of a lot of great Canadian music in a farm field almost, and it's just awesome. And we've taken our kids to that every time we've played it, which is 3 or 4 times. You get kind of trailers, and it's a lot of fun. Fred Penner was there the first or second year we did it, which was awesome for the kids. And then
Nice.
we toured Eastern Canada for the band's 25th anniversary, and we toured around in 2 vehicles to all those locations, and that was a lot of fun. But that was also that was pretty intense in a lot of ways too, right? Because
Yeah.
there's late nights and early mornings, and there's driving, and the kids were quite young at that age.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. That was very memorable. I think probably everybody had their own takeaway from that. I think
Yeah.
but
Well, there's like a different experience while it's happening.
yeah,
Right. Versus like when you reflect back on it later. Like, I mean, that's always the way it is with like parenting, right? That's like the little stuff is really tough and really taxing, but then, it's even like going to the park. It's like, oh man, get your shoes on and get all the stuff together. And then, you go and you have a lot of fun. You look back and say, oh, that was great that we did that. But in the moment, sometimes can be a little stressful. So it's nice that you guys are able to make those memories together that are sort of fit into, your, like, you're able to put those two things together. A lot of people talk about, like parenting as if like it kind of comes at the expense of yourself and your individuality and your passions and stuff. Like, I think some people have that, I won't call it a misconception, maybe that's the reality for some people, but you and I were talking before we started about individuality. So how important is that to you? Like, so if we take those two sort of sides of like the rad dad definition, right? We kind of like, it's almost tongue in cheek. It rhymes, so it's a good title for the show and for the organization, just because of that. And yeah, we talked to lots of musicians, and that's cool. That's one aspect of it. But the other side is like, what does it mean to be a rad dad? right? So how important is that individuality and that, I guess, bringing your passions into your parenting?
That's a, I guess I never really thought about it. And, I think we all kind of figure out parenting and life in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just who I am, right? And so I do have these interests and these passions, I guess. And, of course you have to be cognizant about your family. But I've been fortunate enough that they've been able to come along for the ride too, right? And I think that, like I was telling you before, kind of sharing your interests with your children, maybe not pushing them on them, but like, when you're planning things to do with your kids that are going to be fun days, I mean, sometimes that can be the things that you find fun or the things that you're interested in too. And I think you said it, that if you're having fun, they're having fun too, right? So, I mean, I'm just, I think I try to be the same person in whatever situation I'm in, whether that's sort of work, play, family, whatever. And maybe, you know, I've never really thought about it before, but maybe that's my attempt at being sort of authentic to myself. I might not wear the same clothes in every situation,
Right.
but I think that's, yeah, maybe how I would look at it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that before, that like your kids, they're excited to see that you're excited about stuff, like no matter what it is. Honestly, my kids, like sometimes, like, we're out doing, like, I don't know, mowing the lawn or doing yard work or something, and they're excited. They want to participate, right? Because they just see that's something that you're doing, you're interested in. I want to learn about it too. And so I think that is a really cool thing as a parent. And I almost think it's like, I don't know, it's less about like what you're actually doing, but more that they're seeing that you're happy and you're excited about something.
Yeah, and we like find ways to make it, fun for them, right? Like, going back to the band, if we're gonna practice on a Sunday, like that'll often include some kind of like family dinner and family hangout. And where, maybe we're spending half the day together and the band goes and practices for 45 minutes at some point throughout that, or an hour kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's
And so it's
awesome.
like it's inclusive and everybody's, having a good time and fun, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like you guys are all part of the band, like the families.
I think it feels that way sometimes in a good way. Yeah, for sure. It
So
is like
you
a sort of large
and
family.
yeah, you joined Chixdiggit maybe what, about 5 or 6 years ago? Is that about right? Is it more than that now?
It's 2022. 6 or 7 years ago, yeah.
Okay. So was that like, so as someone, you had, children at that time, is that like a bigger commitment? So one of the things that comes up a lot in these conversations is kind of that work-life balance, or maybe it's band life, home balance. Like, how did that affect? So sort of joining, bit bigger band, maybe a little bit more touring, traveling a little bit farther. How did that factor in?
Well, I, I think it was kind of an impossible thing not to, you know, do my best to join and take part in, because, you know, Chixdiggit, prior to joining them, and I mean even still, to be fair, it's one of my favorite bands in the world. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty, unique or rare opportunity. So I think that, that it kind of, I felt like at the beginning I was getting the opportunity to do things that I didn't feel like I would ever have any business doing.
Right.
But really too is, I think where I'm really lucky is I got a super supportive wife that was fully behind it. And, she would just say things like, we'll figure it out, we'll make sure that we got it covered. And I think it's just like what we were talking about at the beginning. When having kids, you kind of approach life and you take it as it comes, and you'll always figure things out, right? And maybe that's, I'm certainly a pragmatic person. I can be inside my own head, like any of us can be. But I think sometimes just, taking things on and just going with it, and um everything kind of works out in the end. So yeah, with managing it with a family and a job, it's, there's times where it's been challenging, and it's challenging for anybody that's a parent that
Hmm.
is a musician that also happens to have a day job, but it always gets figured out, at the end of the day.
I mean, this is like I love the idea of someone joining a band. Like I remember when you joined the band, like I remember Mark was leaving and there was, no
Mhm.
one was really sure what was going on. I remember when you joined the band and sort of like following that a little bit and just thinking like that is so amazing as like a fan of the band and, friend of the band getting to join. Like, I don't know about you. I'm like one of these people that like has the guitar pick in my wallet. Like I'm ready to step up if someone breaks their arm. Like it just like that's sort of the what you got to do. It's like I'm ready. I'll join.
Yeah, it was really surreal for the first little bit, for sure. Yeah, and awesome, and kind of felt like I had won some kind of lottery, for
Yeah.
sure. And I still feel super fortunate about it, right? Like I'm used to it now,
Yeah.
and but yeah, it was amazing. I'm very lucky
Yeah.
on how things happened, and it's a great band and I'm not talking just musically, which KJ is an incredible songwriter, but just in sort of, I think the ethos and
Yeah.
ensuring that it's all about having fun.
Yeah.
I think Chixdiggit tours a little differently maybe than other bands, right? And we have there's a lot of hanging out, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of extracurricular activities. We famously don't sound check because we're spending
Yeah.
time exploring the places that we're traveling to. So it's been an awesome ride, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. First couple songs are the sound check, right? And
Yeah.
I've seen you guys like almost I don't know learn a song on stage a few times. So, but that's what's so awesome about Chicks Dig It. Like those shows are so fun. I can't think of a band I have more fun at a show at. Like just the energy is so authentic, right? If there's like screw ups, that's just like part of the fun. That's it's just that's what happened. Okay, no big deal. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, I've learned songs on stage for sure.
Yeah, it's
And yeah,
awesome.
it's I think, we're having tons of fun, right? And I think that people are attracted to that when
Yeah.
they're a part of the party. I think people feel very much a part of the action and the party when they're at a Chixdiggit show.
So do your kids like Chicks Dig It? What do your kids think about what you do? Do they like coming to shows? Do they like watching dad on stage?
Well, it's funny. Like, so the younger ones, like it's always been in their life, right? So I think it's one of those things they don't know any other way, right? Like this is
Yeah.
just a thing that happens in my family. We go to these music festivals sometimes, and we see this thing, and so they might be a little more immune to it. But the elder one, who knew it was around, but like maybe being at the ages of like 15, 16, where you're not super, like I don't want to go watch my dad's rock and roll band. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, if you put yourself in her shoes, it would be sort of, you know, the same kind of, feeling you'd have about your parents. So
Yeah.
yeah. And she did come see us at a show this summer, which was pretty funny because I think she saw a side of like her dad and her dad's friends that maybe she wasn't expecting, and then proceeded to barge her way to the front of the stage, saying, that's my dad. To which we kind of all said after the show, were you name dropping your own dad? Which I think
That's
she.
hilarious. So do you mean like she sort of didn't realize like people are going to go crazy, watching my dad play, or like more like, wow, they're actually like really good, or like what was it?
I think there's
What was that
probably
aha
I
moment?
think there was a little bit of all of that, right?
Yeah.
Because she was also at the age where she wasn't old enough to see us play, because we hadn't done an all ages in
Yeah.
Calgary, right? And she had just become 19 the last year or whatever, which or legal age. Since she was legal age, we hadn't played in Calgary, so there
Got it.
wasn't an opportunity to see us playing. When we'd go do these festivals, it'd be like, hey, do you want to come along with us and all the other little kids? And she was so much older than the other kids, and again, a teenager that
Yeah.
was fly. So it was her first opportunity, I think, to see the band play and sort of take that in, and I think she had a really good time. And I think it was, and it was cool to connect with her, about that, even, even though she's an adult herself now, but she was, you could see how stoked she was. And you could see, I could kind of I was watching her sort of making her way to the front as we were playing, and she had a great time. And she was with some friends that had a great time too. So I think that was fun for her as well.
That must feel amazing.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because I guess like we didn't even talk about it, but the last couple of years especially, like, I mean, it's been hard for everybody. You guys haven't really been able to play too much. Like what's that sort of been like, maybe from a band perspective, but also family perspective? How did you guys sort of navigate like the real heavy part of the pandemic? I know it's, we've still got things going on now, but there was some pretty serious impact for families and yeah, artists for sure.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a blur the last, I guess, 2.5 years. I mean, I worked at home. My wife, she's a hairstylist who has her own little salon, so she went through shutdowns.
Yeah, oh my god, that's been so tough for them. Hey, like it's open and closed and open and closed.
Yeah, at first it was, right? Of course, like I
Yeah.
think we all kind of went through this thing at the beginning. Like it was really dark at the beginning of the thing. Like, what is going to happen?
Yes.
And then I think, you kind of were able to sort of see the bigger picture. So when it happened, say the second and third time, I think the second or third time you're like, yes, like she's going to be off work for 4 to 6 weeks and we're going to get some hangout time that really, you not have another opportunity to get.
Yeah, there's like those silver linings
about the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But we had to, I think we started doing that as quickly as possible, looking at the silver linings and making sure that we were checking in on each other within our house and keeping things positive in a time that it was really easy to get negative.
Yeah.
And maybe trying to keep the news out of our lives as much as possible. I mean, I think that there's necessary elements of it, but I mean, everybody had their brains pumped full of so much shit in the last 2 years, right?
Totally.
And you can see how divided people have become. And so we've really done our best to not, fall into anything there on anything that's been super divided in the world right now. And then with the band, I think we still like hung on jam and started, the process of making a new record and just talking about what our plans would be. And I think that everybody, there had a pretty good attitude about things and perspective on things. And I think we checked in on each other a lot now that I'm like looking back on it. And I think, we kept each other as sane as possible, at least throughout, the last 2.5 years. And I know it's not maybe over now, but if it's not over, it feels certainly like manageable or normal enough or whatever the hell we're going to call this.
Yeah. Like people are ready to, I think, like try and move forward in the most normal way possible.
Yeah.
Like we'll just kind of keep an eye on things and see what happens. And I'm like, feels good to me to be able to get back to going to shows.
Yeah.
And just doing stuff with my family, going to sort of public places and just kind of not having to be, there was a lot of stress the last couple of years, right? Well, I'm curious what it was like from a school perspective for your kids. Like, so my oldest daughter, she's 6 turning 7, so going into grade 2. For Billy Jr. would have been, so it must be going into grade 2 or 3 or something, right? Yeah. So like that's a weird couple of years at school for him.
I wonder if it's more weird for us than it is
maybe
for them. I think the young kids are so resilient that they're just kind of taking their reality or the things that are happening in the world, and they're maybe able to process them without getting heady about them or thinking about all the big picture things that maybe dragged us adults down a bit.
Yeah,
because he was in person and then online school, and it was a big mix. And I think it was probably more stressful for the parents thinking about that impact on the kids. And really, like, for him, like, he just seemed fine throughout. I mean, there's times, of course, and you would have experienced this with your kids, they're sad that they're not going to, Braxton's house or whatever
Yeah.
their names are these days,
Birthday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Birthday parties and
birthday parties and
yeah.
doing all that, right? And so, but that's kind of past now. And
Yep.
yeah, he was, I think I don't want to speak for him, but
Yeah.
he just like always seemed to be good and upbeat and crazy and still the same kid throughout.
This is the same with my kids too. Like I would agree that, yeah, you're right. I'm probably like projecting on my kids a little bit that it was a weird couple of years. I feel weird. Like I haven't been in my daughter's school yet. Haven't been allowed to go in, right? Like there's a few weird things like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, she's been totally fine. Um, wear a mask or don't wear a mask
Yeah,
or whatever it was. Like
yeah.
she's just like, okay, no big deal. And that was just sort of what they had to do. And you're right, they're resilient. They're also like they sort of follow their direction. They trust you to sort of like set them on the right path a little bit. And so you try and figure that out for them, whatever is going to be best. I think for some older kids, like I don't know, for your oldest daughter, for Adeline, like that's also a tough age to be going through all that stuff too. Like when you're sort of told you can't go hang out with your friends or that's a real social time.
Probably toughest on her in
Mm-hmm.
the house for sure.
Yeah.
Especially like that first, whatever it was, like 6 to 9 months.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have, and she was, did remarkably well for it. But I mean, certainly, expressed frustration at times there. And I think it was probably pretty challenging for her because her 18th birthday was, everything
Yeah.
was locked down. Right. So,
Yeah. It's so weird, right? Like going through
yeah,
those milestones. Like I can't imagine what that would have been like for me.
no.
That's just such, like I said, a social time and a developmental time. You're kind of figuring out who you are, and then you're kind of like so stunted from being able to experience the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was, and then the youngest, I think, I don't want to say unaffected, but maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Maybe a
she,
bit oblivious, right?
yeah, maybe that's maybe a great word for it. Maybe a bit oblivious.
But okay, so yeah, it's been an interesting couple of years, but like we're sort of back, right? Like Chixdiggit's back. You got some shows coming up and stuff like that. Um, Punk and Drublic coming up next weekend. You've got a couple shows leading up to that as well, right?
Well, we know we've played a couple shows this summer, and so we're just doing the one-off this.
Oh, it's just the one-off. For some reason, I thought you were playing in Calgary before. Okay.
We played in Calgary during the Stampede time of year here in Calgary.
Yeah.
It's sort of a fun party with Face to Face, and that was a great time.
Right.
And now, yeah, this Sunday we're playing Punk and Drublic, which we did Punk and Drublic in 2019 in Edmonton and Vancouver, and they're super, super fun shows. It's really cool what Fat Mike has sort of created and put together there. And this Saturday, so it's with NoFX and the Descendants, and I think that's a pretty cool opportunity to see maybe those two bands together.
Yeah.
And Pop is playing, and Strung Out is playing, and Voodoo Glow Skulls are playing, and I'm forgetting one.
Real Sickies are playing.
Yeah, Real Sickies, they're a great band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Edmonton band too.
Edmonton band. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super stoked to see you. I was going to sort of circle back on something I want to ask you. So you were sort of talking about a little bit earlier about how you're sort of like the same guy, with your family or in the daytime as you are at nighttime. Are there ways though that being a parent has changed you? Like you became a parent fairly young, so you probably had to grow up pretty quick. Like what are those ways that being a parent has changed you?
Because I became a parent so young, as a kid, maybe I was still a kid myself. It's hard for me to maybe figure that out, other than I was maybe forced on a path differently. And I think I was aware of that young. Okay, you're going to have to like get a job and make sure that you're not super check to check, right? Because being, having no money for like things when you're 20 is okay when you don't have kids and you kind of have fun and make it through. So I think maybe it did that. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, I think of this crazy statistic because when my youngest was born, my eldest was 16. So by the time my youngest is 16, I'll have been a parent of a kid between the ages of 0 and 16 for 32 straight years, which
Crazy.
I know that's crazy. We kind of laugh about that too in our house, being like, holy shit, that's a long time.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, maybe it's almost like as an adult, that's sort of all you've known is being a parent, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's all I've known. So,
yeah.
I don't know that I'm fully aware of all the ways, other than really at the beginning for sure.
Yeah.
It was like, you got to go.
Yeah. Are there things that you sort of had to consciously like change about yourself? Do you remember? Like, are there, did you have to like work on things? I know a lot of people say like, okay, I had to really work on my patience or like, perspective on things or whatever. But was it just like you just went with the flow? You just did what you had to do, or were there things that you had to consciously kind of make an effort to change?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was maybe my thoughts or what I was saying earlier about your kind of maybe the way I'm looking at things is like I'm always trying to continually improve or checking myself, right? Because even, I'm still like learning things about parenting now. I don't think I would ever have all the answers, right? Or learning from
Yeah.
others or, you know, being more aware of, maybe some of my flaws or things that I can work on. So I think I've kind of, especially as I got more into adulthood, I've maybe always tried to make sure I'm looking in the mirror
Yeah.
first, right? And being aware of those things. So I think for sure that there's times where, I've been aware that I have to be more patient or, you know, which is something that's really required with young ones as you
Yeah.
sort of get a little bit, elderly. So, but yeah, I think
Okay.
just always kind of looking to sort of improve and striving to do better or do your best is, I think it's an important exercise to go through.
Okay. I asked earlier about like, figures that you had in your life who, are that support network for you. So what about your dad? Can you talk about your dad a little bit?
Well, yeah, for sure. So, my dad, my parents were separated, and my dad through my formative years wasn't really around all that often.
Okay.
And so I spent a couple of years with him actually living in Calgary. I left, my mom and siblings and moved to Calgary where my dad was at the time for a couple of years as a teenager. And I would say as I got into adulthood, our relationship was probably more like a friendship. And we
Okay.
were good buddies up until he passed away, which has been 5 or 6 years ago now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And there's different challenges you go through. I think going through like coming from a quote broken home, and I would say we were maybe a little closer to the poverty side of things as kids
Okay.
growing up. And my wife came from quote broken home with split parents too, and I think that maybe galvanized us a little bit. So I think, and I don't want to take the piss on him, especially being passed away. But I think really what I learned from my dad in a lot of ways was maybe what not to do as a parent.
Yeah.
And me and my wife have talked about this, like kind of coming from, split up homes. You do kind of maybe appreciate parenting in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really super aware of like the need to be present and maybe how precious it is because you know you don't want to miss out on anything or have any regrets there. So
I think we all like take our experiences as a kid and in some way, I mean, that either, totally just sort of naturally feeds into how we parent, or it might be like a conscious reflection that we have to do to sort of say, oh, I want to do that, or I don't want to do that. I think
yeah.
that's okay. That's like everybody's done that, right? People, you talk to people, they say like, oh, I'd want to give my kids a better life than my parents gave me, or they say like, my parents did this and I don't want to do that. I don't want to put my kids through that. And so I think it's natural to reflect, and it's not necessarily taking a piss on somebody, but right. It's natural. You just want to learn from your experiences, right?
Well, yeah, but I guess, he was maybe not like the best father, and not because, he was abusive or anything like that, but he was just really absent for
Yeah.
large periods, right, of my life growing up. So, which is, yeah.
So how does that, like, you talked about that kind of galvanizing you
Mhm.
guys and maybe your relationship, but how does that affect, like, or does it like consciously affect how you kind of parent your kids, or is it more just like you said, an appreciation for sort of having that ability to be present and focus? And because I imagine another aspect of that, like even maybe just thinking about your mom, is like, I've talked to other single parents on the show who talk about how hard it is to just like have that time when you maybe don't have a partner there to sort of take some of that, that, I don't want to call it burden, but like there's a lot of work that goes into being a parent, plus
Yeah.
you're managing your job and whatever else has to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that sort of it?
Um, you know, I think that there's been times where I've been really super aware of
Mm.
how important it is to not sort of repeat past mistakes, or what do they say, like break the cycle or whatever,
Yeah.
and to ensure that there's like a totally, what you were saying before about like, maybe your kids having a better life than you had growing up, or making the campground cleaner than when you got there, that kind
Yeah.
of theory. But maybe sort of amplified a little bit, considering some of the circumstances I went through. And I think it was, I think it's, I have siblings that we have coping mechanisms, and we look back at some pretty tough experiences through a lens of humor now, and understanding maybe that our parents were flawed, just like every other human being is. But yeah, I think yes, I have been super aware of that, and making
Mm.
sure that yeah, there's no semblance of that with my kids.
Is your mom still around?
She's still around, and she lives actually pretty close to me now in Calgary.
Oh,
So with
good.
that,
Okay.
yeah, and my kids are super close with her, and spend a lot of time with her, which is actually awesome for me and Lori. That's my wife, because
Yeah.
they're like, she'll take the kids for sleepovers on weeknights.
What a
Yeah, I know. It's
like a privilege, right? I said
yeah,
that word
for
earlier
sure.
too, because I feel the same way. I've got, my dad's here and my wife's parents are here, and like to have that support, even just like, kids are sick or whatever, something comes
Totally.
up, just to have a backup.
Yeah. And I do think, like, and I was really close with my grandparents. There's an important role for grandparents to sort of
Yeah.
play in a kid's life. And so they've got a really grandma there that the kids are super close with, that, they spend a lot of time with her. So that's great. And it's great for me and Laura, because there's like a lot of sleepovers in there, or, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's not like it's amazing to see the kids' relationship with grandparents, right? Like it is kind of like a really special, unique thing. I don't know. I just love watching it. My dad is awful. Dad, if you're listening, is awful for like spoiling the kids, right? But at the
yeah.
same time, it's like that's their role to some degree, right? So it's kind of
I
neat
mean,
to see.
the way we see it is usually like, okay, see you guys later. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but no, I agree, right? Like, grandparents spoil the kids, and
But like I think, okay, sometimes I feel sort of selfish talking about that. Like, same as you, like I'm like, oh man, the kids are going for a sleepover. This is great. We have time to ourselves. But at the same time, like, we were kind of talking earlier about like the importance of your relationship, between parents, right? And like having space to build that, and make sure that's strong, because that's going to affect your kids if it's not. Like people say, like, I'm just kind of thinking about this now, but people say, it kind of takes a village to raise a child. And as I sort of like go through this process, like with my kids and growing up, and you know, um, them having friends, and meeting some of the neighbors, and like you really start to realize that actually, like there's really something to that. You try and do this by yourself and it's really hard, not just for you, but even for your kids. Like to have that network around it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, we experienced that like in our family through, the grandma and, Lori's parents live further away, but when they're around them, my siblings who have been, great uncles and aunt to my kids. And then of course, like my friends, right? Even friends without kids, like, just the people that are in like the periphery of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right. And especially when we were like, when we were, and it's we've thought about this with Adeline, a lot, is that when she was young and we were like super young, like our friends would be over a lot.
Yeah.
And they were young too. And so she had like a lot of like quote unquote like aunts.
Yeah.
And uncles that were all kind of like our age or like early 20s people. And she was always kind of included.
Yeah.
She was always like around us and friends. And so I think that she got an interesting perspective there, right? Because she had a lot of people sort of helping and looking out for her. Right. So
yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a really unique experience for a kid to have too. And like I said, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about before about sort of seeing your parents do things they're excited about, and like to see them have friends around. Like I have really vivid memories of my parents, like when they had like friends over at our house or whatever, and we get to stay up late and people were paying attention to us, and it was exciting, it was cool to see like they were having fun. So yeah, I think sometimes we can be a little bit hard on ourselves and think that we have to like be super parents all the time, and that means like 100% focus on our kids. But maybe that can, maybe you're missing out on some other things too if you take that approach. I don't know.
I don't know. I know where you're going with that. And I think that, that's like there has to, I guess maybe it's like balance.
Yeah.
Is the word. Like you want to strike a balance between, like, of course you want to do things and focus on things that are kid centric and kids important and fun for kids, but there has to be a balance to the other side too, right? And I think for kids as well, it's probably healthy to have that balance. Like we, like there's kids that are in like zero extracurricular activities, and then there's kids that are in like every activity on the face of the earth, and I don't think necessarily either is healthy. And it's just like I think you want to think of all those things with through a lens of like balance and maybe a little full spectrum and just experiencing life.
Yeah, totally. What is the most rewarding aspect of being a dad? That's a tough question, I know.
What is the most rewarding aspect of being a dad? Having these kids in my life, like waking up in this house and them being there and having the opportunity to see them smile and lose their teeth and grow new ones and learn to hit a baseball or get into like dresses, or like our eldest daughter following her mom's sort of passion and career path and becoming a hairstylist. Like seeing them become their own individuals and become people and having that connection with them, I think just everything about it is a blessing. Like going, I take I did it with my eldest until she maybe lost interest, like going skiing with my youngest, and just anything you can, watching, sort of seeing as much as the world as possible through their eyes, and knowing that you're playing a big role in that, and just getting to be around them. I think, if that makes sense. I don't know if
I love that. I love that. No, I don't think anyone's ever said it quite that way to me about getting to sort of like see the world through their eyes. I think that's so great. Like I totally agree with you. There's like the unconditional love sort of part. There's the there's that, but there's sort of like they're getting to just like live all these things kind of for the first time and become their own person. It's so cool.
Yeah. And like I mean, when you grew up, it was probably like, if you said a cuss word.
Yeah.
You probably got the bar of soap or something like
Yeah.
that. Something like, our two girls never swear, but like Junior, he's just not afraid to, even though we tell him he can't. And that's like a weird gift to me too, is that he's okay being himself,
Yeah.
even at 7, and like he understands like the context of it.
Yep.
Like you're not, you can't like pejoratively swear at somebody or like call somebody down, but he'll say something like fucking squirrels,
Yeah.
something else, and I'll be like, and I'll start laughing and be like, you can't say that,
Yeah.
like
Especially
but
not at school.
especially not at school. And actually, Lori asked the teacher if he was swearing. She's like, oh no, we never heard that. So I think that he feels safe to do that around.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, little things like that are a weird gift, even though we're trying to make sure he's not overdoing it. But yeah, just like I try to appreciate everything,
Yeah.
every aspect. So
That's
yeah,
so hilarious. Fucking
yeah,
squirrels.
yeah, like he just like he's quite the character actually.
You
Very,
you
very.
talked
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you talked about losing a tooth. So I saw like recently on your Instagram, you had a video of like doing the old door slam technique with one of his loose teeth. That's hilarious.
That was his idea.
How did he agree to that? That was his idea?
He didn't agree to it. He like demanded it. And I don't even know, like, I feel like that's something probably from like the 1920s.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I never did that, and he was like, I wanted you to tie string to my tooth and slam the door. And we're like, okay. And he wanted a video of it.
Yeah.
Like he still got this thing where he I think like kids like watch YouTube these days, you're probably aware of. He
Yes.
wants to start like kind of like a comedy YouTube channel, which of course he's too young for. But we have all these videos of things that he's sort of done, and a lot of them are really funny. And that was one of them. I want a video of this. I want you to tie a string to my tooth and slam the door.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it took him like 4 days to build up the courage, because it'd be like, I want to do it today. And he'd be like, okay. And when we go do it, no, I'm not ready. And the 4th day, he's like, okay, I'm ready.
And
so
it worked.
It worked. Yeah, it totally worked. And then then when the second one, so it was his front tooth, when the second one came loose, he was like, yeah, I think that's how he thinks teeth come out now, which maybe isn't like the best thing, but that's how the second one came out too. But
That's just the way, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, it's funny to him, right? So yeah.
That's so awesome. So we talked about, so Chixdiggit's got Punk and Drublic coming up. We're so excited. Rad Dads are going to be there, so we're so excited to see you guys there. What else? So you mentioned that you guys had started work on a new album. Like, are you able to talk about that a little bit? Where that's at?
Yeah, it's in production now, and I think it's getting to the end stages of production, which is exciting. And so, working towards completion there and getting it out as quickly as possible. I know that that's maybe not giving a ton of details, but that's where we're at. And I think that that's going to be a big part of the band's focus once we get through Punk and Drublic. And then, we'll see what comes up in the near future. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we were, doing some kind of regional stuff throughout the as we get into the fall, winter, spring kind of thing.
Awesome.
And yeah.
And you guys recorded in Calgary?
We're recording in Calgary, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm so excited. So what about Ativans? Anything going on the Ativans side of things?
Well, we have like a great jam house or jam space that we don't use enough, I would say. And we haven't played a show in a couple of years, but we're still a band. Half of us are in Chixdiggit.
Yep.
So I think there's that. And then everybody there, again, it's the same kind of thing as Chixdiggit, where everybody's got these jobs and kids, which make it tough. So yeah, we'll play a show, and we'll get finishing some recordings we got on the go sometime in the future.
Nice. Anything else going on you want people to know about?
I think Punk and Drublic is going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing a lot of friends at Punk and Drublic and just having a great time and meeting you guys in person. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, I'll
bring you a shirt. We'll connect afterwards.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I'll bring you a shirt. Well, man, I'm so thankful for your time today. I really appreciate you making the time to chat with us and share your stories and your experience of being a dad. Like I said, super stoked to see you guys play on Saturday. We've got I don't know, I've got 20 friends coming.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Any words of wisdom for dads out there listening? Maybe dads to be.
I think just, be yourself and, wake up in the morning and just do the best you can, given where you're at in life and your circumstances. And, I think also just realize how important your presence and your role is in that kid's life, right? And just be cognizant of that, right? And don't be afraid to look in the mirror when you need to look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's kind of, you've kind of mentioned that a couple times, like that ongoing growth or whatever.
Yeah, I think
continue to go for the best version of yourself you can.
Yeah, you're not going to reach a mountaintop, right?
No.
In growth, right? You just keep climbing, and that doesn't have to be exhausting or tiring either. That can be fun, challenges
rewarding,
can be fun and rewarding, right? So, I think that's, I don't necessarily think I'm in a position to give advice or to, I'm kind of just trying to, not impress, but I'm trying to make sure I'm doing right by myself. And I think that's what everybody else should do too. So I don't necessarily feel qualified to give advice, but if somebody was asking, I guess that's what I would say, because that's what I'm, trying to just go through myself.
That's great advice. I know you didn't want to give advice, but it's good advice. So thanks for your time today. Super appreciate it, Billy. Great meeting you. And looking forward to seeing you next weekend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for your time too.